Barış Baktaş is rewriting the rules of fame, and Sandokan is the wave carrying him beyond every border. Welcome to Turkish series stars. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and stay with us for the story of a pirate, an empire, and an impossible love that rewrote destiny, on screen and off, with Yagmur Yüksel standing right in the heart of the storm. Tonight we're pulling back the curtain on the production that pulled Barış into the global conversation and made the couple's name echo from Rome to Los Angeles. The title you already know, Sandoken. This isn't just a glossy period project that looks good in trailers. It's the moment where a Turkish leading man stepped into a legend's boots and walked straight toward Hollywood's open doors. So why did Netflix US single out Sandokan as one of the year's boldest international launches? How did Barış Baktaş break out of the local star label and turn himself into a face the American press can't stop printing? Why are people caught between his ferocious duel with Ed Westwick on screen and the tenderness he channels when the story turns toward Mariana? And when whispers talk of a second season vaulting Sandokan into myth, what exactly is happening behind those studio doors? Stay with me for the off-camera scuttlebutt, the transformation that turned Barış into a seafaring tiger, the private competition that sharpened every scene, the big picture plans being drawn up at Netflix, and the reason Sandokan became more than television. If epic adventures, global premieres, and raw set gossip are your thing, keep listening. This project doesn't just stream, it stamps itself into memory. Barış Baktaş's road to a worldwide throne starts here, with a role that pushed him, tested him, and brought Yagmur Yüksel into the narrative in a way no one expected. There are series that get made, and there are series that change the weather. Sandokan belongs to the second kind. It unites Turkish star power with Hollywood cool, Barış Baktaş steering the ship and Ed Westwick anchoring the darkness, and it became a phenomenon even before many viewers saw a single scene. Now the stage grows bigger, because Netflix US has set a date, and the industry has taken notice. Mark this, the 8-episode season of Sandokan lands in the Netflix US catalog with every episode available on Monday, January 19, 2026. That decision didn't just shift a calendar, it set a tone. The Italian premiere on Rai 1 ended with high numbers, the Disney Plus rollout introduced the saga to fresh markets, and then the Real breakthrough arrived when Netflix US stepped in, transforming a European hit into a global calling card. Inside the company, Sandokan sits high among the most ambitious international releases of the year. The message is unmistakable, this is not a curiosity, this is a flagship. At first, the plan sounded finite, a contained story to reintroduce a classic. Then the footage came in. The cut evolved. Executives watched Barış's performance deepen. And the conversation changed. The miniseries idea gave way to a second season order, with scripts revised after the team saw how far the role stretched him. Sources near the production insist that Sandokan's inner journey surprised even the writers, and that's rare. You don't rip up schedules unless you believe you've met the start of a legend. Lux Vide and Rai Fiction sit behind the helm, and that matters. These are the people who built prestige period worlds like Medici and Leonardo, and they poured cinematic muscle into Sandokan, the color, the grain, the texture of a storm at sea. The new version doesn't coast on nostalgia, it remaps the myth with modern urgency and a pulse that feels immediate. The tale itself comes from Emilio Salgari's novels. We're in Borneo, 1849. Sandokan, the tiger of Malaysia, is a pirate first and a symbol later, clawing through life with no cause beyond survival. That changes when he crosses paths with Mariana, the British consul's daughter, and fate tightens its grip. A forbidden love, impossible and dangerous, turns the loner into a leader. Once he falls, he rises, not just for himself, but against the British Empire. And in his way stands Lord James Brooke, the relentless hunter who would scorch the sea to corner his prey. Ed Westwick embodies Brooke with a cold that seeps into the frame. When he stares, you feel the distance between law and justice collapse. To meet Sandokan head-on, Barış Baktaş vanished into work for months. Swordplay, close-quarters combat, long rehearsals on deck where the wind resists your every breath. Maritime endurance drills to make the body flow with water instead of fighting it. Vocal coaching until old-world cadence felt natural, not forced. But the real shift didn't end in the muscles. It happened in the quiet, where a man torn between rage and tenderness has to choose who he wants to be. Sandokan is not a statue carved from heroism, he's a contradiction, a leader who bleeds, a lover who doubts, a fighter who is afraid of what surrender to love might cost. That inner tremor is what critics noticed, and it's what fans replay. And through that metamorphosis, Yağmur Yüksel was never far. She visited the coastal sets in 2024, as cameras moved from one country to the next. There were mornings when she arrived before sunrise, hair tucked under a cap, coffee in hand, listening as Barış walked through beats he wanted to adjust. Crew members say she didn't hover, she anchored, the person who reminded him to breathe between takes and to hold something back so there would be more to give when the lens came closer. When the early cuts screened in small rooms, some swore the tenderness in the scenes with Mariana carried the warmth of a real love that existed just beyond the frame. Whether that's myth or truth hardly matters anymore, the effect is real. The set, a swirl of accent and attitude, turned into its own little republic. Italian veterans, British players, Turkish energy, American consultants, a mosaic that can only exist on productions built to travel. From what slipped into the rumor mill, Barış asserted himself as a leader who kept the pace sharp. And then there was the electricity between him and Ed Westwick. On camera, their clashes were crafted to stretch, to tighten without relief, to breathe in silence and strike without warning. Off camera, the competitive current didn't disappear. If one nailed a take, the other wanted to top it. Long nights, longer rehearsals, and a mutual respect sharpened by pride. Witnesses say those scenes were allowed to run longer, because nobody wanted to shout cut while the tension still sang. Fashion responded like a tuning fork. The Sandokan beard, the windswept hair, the layered leathers and sea-dark fabrics, they started slipping into photo shoots and storefronts. People around runways whisper about a wild aristocracy current rising in 2026, with Barış as its unexpected reference point. The European and American press keeps reaching for the same phrase. An exotic leader who looks like the storm he rides. Yağmur, never one to chase attention without purpose, mirrored the palette on red carpets, choosing silhouettes that felt nautical without shouting. The two of them together, sharp yet unpretentious, became a look of its own. The Netflix US plan tells you everything about confidence. Dropping all episodes on the same day says, watch the swell build into a wave right now. In back rooms, the conversations stretch beyond one series. We hear that following Sandokan, Barış sits at tables where English-language films are sketched on napkins, where historical fantasies and genre-bending epics get mapped, where Hollywood co-productions are no longer speculative but calendar-bound. And Yağmur's name has entered those rooms too, not as an accessory, but as a talent under consideration. Some executives have toyed with a graceful cameo next season, others with a European period limited series that would let her carry a world of her own. Nothing announced, but the questions linger, and those questions exist because power sees chemistry and thinks strategy. More than one label fits this project. For Barış Baktaş, Sandokan reads like a manifesto of international ambition. For Netflix, it fits a wider design to pull Europe and beyond into a single conversation. For the legend itself, it feels like rebirth, the salt and smoke of an old tale told with new conviction. And for those who have watched Barış and Yağmur from the start, it's the story of a Turkish couple stepping into global focus without losing the core of who they are. When January comes and Sandokan unfurls on Netflix in the US, it won't just be consumed and forgotten. It will spark arguments about fidelity to the books, about the shade of its darkness, about whether the line between love and rebellion can ever be clean. It will leave marks. The simultaneous release, the renewal for a second run, the parade of producers who suddenly want meetings, all of it points one way. This voyage hasn't reached its last port. Right now, Barış Baktaş sits on the radar not only at home but across Europe and America, and Sandokan is the sharpest blade he carries. The rivalry with Ed Westwick will likely cut deeper next season, and the whispers about Yagmur stepping into this universe, as a secret, as a spark, as an answer Sandokan doesn't expect, will only grow louder. Maybe she appears as a vision that tests him, maybe she becomes a woman whose choices bend the tide, or maybe she stays just out of frame, the steady wind behind his sails. Whatever happens, the two names are now braided into the myth. So what do you believe? Has this role opened the door that leads Barış into Hollywood's inner rooms? Will the second season of Sandokan lean darker and harsher, testing the edges of what a hero can forgive? How far will the clash with Ed Westwick go before the story forces one of them to break? And should Yagmur Yüksel step into the legend as Mariana's mirror or carve her own figure into the map? Tell us in the comments. Like this video if you want more angles you won't find anywhere else. And subscribe to Turkish series stars for deeper dives, off-the-record whispers, and a growing archive of global series moments. In our next episode, we'll uncover a set detail from Sandokan that no one has dared to discuss until now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Some stories aren't merely watched, they're followed. Take care, stay warm, and accept all our love. Happy New Year!